Let's continue, shall we? The purr of engines, the hiss of wheels on pavement, a dusty perfume in the air. "Welcome back," said Lavenza. Akira straightened in his seat and rubbed his eyes. He ran his palms against the plush velvet of the chair. After all that time splashing through the Dead Sea, it was a relief to feel something dry again. "Allow me to offer my congratulations," she said. "We have made significant progress on our journey." "Took me longer than I expected." "Nevertheless, your mission is now clear. You have an objective, a target, and an ally." "Not sure if I'd call Akechi much of an ally." Lavenza tilted her head. She still didn't blink, even as strands of that fine white gold hair brushed against her open eyes. "Your resentment of that boy seems considerable, she said. "May I ask why?" "Well, he did kind of kill all those people. Seems a good enough reason for me." "Ah, I see. He also made several attempts on your own life, as I recall." "Yeah, he almost put a bullet in Akira's head, and then there was a battle in the engine room." "Yeah, but I don't mind that so much. He might have tried to kill me, but he was really bad at it." "And are these actions he took the sole cause for your animosity?" Akira frowned. Neither Lavenza nor her divided selves had shown this kind of curiosity before. He turned out to be good with these people. With people. Maybe it was the wild card's influence. Maybe it was just from his natural tendency to stay quiet and beneath notice. But during his stay in Tokyo, he'd had a knack for intuiting what people wanted to hear, their quirks and their habits. And he'd liked all of them, for the most part. Even the ones who kept sticking needles in him or humiliated him in front of an arcade full of grade schoolers. He hadn't minded Akechi either initially. Ryuji might have flipped his lid when he saw the guy bad-mouthing him and the other thieves on live TV, but Akira figured that was natural for the police. But then Akechi had approached him in person, and the wrongness had started. There was something unbearably unctuous about the boy, an oiliness that made his every word sound rehearsed, and the way he kept seeking out Akira's company no matter how curt or blunt his replies became, quickly got under his skin. It was like Akechi really was just performing their so-called friendship, reading off an entirely different script. Akira had run across some reprehensible people during his time with the thieves, but if he spoke with Akechi too long, he often felt like he needed a shower afterward. Then there had been his half-threatening little rendezvous with their group in the metro, or the bafflingly casual way he dropped the story of his abusive childhood on him in Futaba, or how he always seemed to stay at LeBlanc just long enough to chat him up and go. Every encounter with him had been out of key and out of tune. Akira had almost been relieved when he'd found out that Akechi was planning to double-cross them. It affirmed a lot of his suspicions. This fanfic was written before Persona 5 Royal, by the way, so this is a long time before Akechi's character development and expansion on his bond with Akira, or Ren, or Lucas. But then Akira had learned about the real depth of his crimes, and that his derangement had just been nurtured further by Shido, and before that by Yaldabaoth himself, culminating in that raving breakdown in the pound and steam and stink of that engine room. None of the thieves could work up the gall to condemn him outright. They'd seen too much of themselves in him, even if he'd chosen the darker path every time. Even after Akira had gone home, the question of Akechi and what had become of him after that bulkhead door slammed shut had stuck at him like a toothache. It was why, when he'd seen that bound box over the alternate velvet room, his mind had jumped to just one conclusion for its occupant. "It's complicated," was all he could say. Humans so often are. Her head rotated back into place. I shall pry no further, but I shall witness your exploits with great interest. I'll try to put on a good show. Can you tell me anything about the person we saw in that theater? Only that its malice is unbridled, and it is aware of your predicament. It may have retreated because it knows that you have no other avenue of escape. But once we get rid of him, we can leave, right? Both of us? So you care about that boy after all? I made a promise, Akira said simply. My master is presently attending to him. Should this mission be accomplished, I have little doubt that circumstances will save him from his present fate, though he may fall into one even more dire. That's up to him, said Akira. Either way, we're stuck together now. We don't have much choice but to get along. Do try and develop your bond with him. A tentative partnership is often an ineffective one, and this adversary will show you no quarter. Justice Link reborn. Well, either that'll happen or we'll just wind up killing each other. Should be interesting to see how it goes. Lavenza nodded. Indeed. That appeared to be the end of their conversation. Akira leaned back in his seat and looked out the windows. There still wasn't any scenery to speak of, just that absolute suffocating darkness. Their driver remained silent and ramrod straight behind the fog glass at the front of the bus. Velvet bus, everyone aboard the velvet bus. Lavenza laid her hand on her book, as if soothing a restless animal. It wasn't long before the hum of the engine lulled him back to sleep. He shut his eyes, ready to pass from one dream to another. This time, Akechi knew it was no dream. Again, he woke up curled on the floor of that cage, but it seemed roomier this time. Not by much, but his knees were no longer crammed under his chin. He rose and sought out the peephole before claustrophobia tightened over his chest again. It didn't take long. The slit had also gotten bigger. Now it was the size of his head, albeit lined with thin metal bars. He wrapped his fingers around them and tried to peer out. So that's what the big black cage was about. It was Akechi in there all this time. Wow. Nothing but those cells and their endlessly staring shadow. He still couldn't see the floor. He craned his head this way and that, trying to take in the whole chamber. And then that high, frail voice spoke again, and he nearly jumped high enough to crack his head on the ceiling. Welcome back, it said. And congratulations. Hardly any time had passed since your last visit, but already your world has grown considerably. Let me go, he said, voice shaking. I don't want to be here anymore. A most unusual sentiment for a guest. But then you are not a typical guest. Akechi thought he heard distant fingernails tapping on a table. Introductions are in order, I believe. My name is Igor. I attend to this velvet room. That name sounded familiar. That tapping. Those three figures, all in unison. You are a slave. Want emancipation? Yes, said Igor, as if he'd plucked the thought from Akechi's head. I understand your confusion. The entity you initially encountered here used my name and my face, but it was an impostor, a usurper, twisting the purpose of this room to set you upon a ruinous path. However, even though you were invited here under false pretenses, your invitation remains valid. If you require the Velvet Room's services, it will be here. There's nothing you can do for me, Akechi said. There's nothing that anyone can do for me. Akira was right. Even if I get out of the Dead Sea, I have nowhere else to go. And so you are imprisoned. The state of this room reflects that of your own heart. Why then has it already changed so? Akechi said nothing. Instead, he gripped the bars and shook. They didn't budge. This box was still one solid piece of metal. If he looked out the side, he could see the wicked gleam of barbed wire. What is it you seek, I wonder? Igor asked. Freedom? Atonement? Rehabilitation? The usurper offered you power, but I can do nothing other than refine what is in your soul. And yet when I peer within, what I see is distressingly hollow. Truly a most unusual guest. But I am nonetheless delighted to meet you. We may consider this a fresh introduction, a rebirth of sorts. He clutched his head and slumped back in the cage. Even through the walls, he could feel the shadow's relentless empty stares crawl across his skin. Most appropriate in your case, Igor continued cheerfully. A certain saying comes to mind. To be born again, first you have to die. I should have stayed dead, he muttered. But that is not what you chose, and so I am here to bear witness. As long as you continue on your current path, this velvet room and its amenities shall remain open to you. For what? The wild card? He laughed bitterly. I'm afraid I rather neglected that gift. As I said, this room reflects the state of your heart, and right now it illustrates that a bond is open to you. It is hesitant and weak, but it is there. The blessed paradox, the shackle that eases your imprisonment. Igor's voice grew distant. Until next time, then, I shall watch your progress with utmost interest. Akechi pulled his knees up and waited for the world to fade. Cold metal into cold water. One paranoid nightmare traded for another. He thought about Akira and the stranger and the past and the future. The consequences of his actions. The guilt that should have been there inside him. But aside from the dread of those rattling chains, he still felt vacant. He didn't know if he felt anything at all. I actually thought that Akechi was flashing back to Yaldabaoth, like randomly popping up in his nightmares of the Velvet Room, so I was using the dark Britishy voice that David Lodge used. But turns out that the real Igor is actually the nice friendly Igor with Kirk Fortin, and he's going to give Akechi all the help he needs. Only question is, does Kechi want it? Hopefully he will. But until next time, I'm the Masked Ranger saying, keep moving forward. Remember to stay home, wash your hands, be safe, wear masks when going shopping, and I hope you'll stick with me through this long journey. The journey of the rehabilitation or the fabulous emancipation of one Goro Akechi. Until next time, cheerio!